Hi and welcome. I'm Tom Harris, Senior Applications Engineer with Edge PLM in the Australia-New Zealand area. Today we're going to be looking at SimCenter FEMAP, some of the user automation tools that FEMAP offers the user. So why do we want to use these? Well, it's all about getting your time back and that ever-present challenge. Now, one of the challenges is obviously there are many demands on your time. These might come from customers, from the bank, from your boss. Now, they might also come from family. Your sanity is a fairly obvious one, and you may just need to take some recreational time. All of the engineering challenges that you work with, particularly in analysis, are to do with time. Now, how does FEMAP help? Well, FEMAP offers you macros and automation to allow you to get some of your time back so you can enjoy what life is really about. So let's have a look at some of the automation tools that FEMAP offers. We have a record and a playback functionality, which is pretty much like a tape recorder. You press record and you then play it back. We'll then have a look at some of the some of the FEMAP custom tools that are available and what they are and how you can use them. Then we'll round off the presentation with having a look at the full application programming interface that's built into Solid Edge. So this isn't a programming course. This is basically a review of the tools that FEMAP gives you to do automation. So just a distinction there, we're looking at the tools. This is not an in-depth programming course today. So record and playback actions. How do you do this in FEMAP? Well, Siemens understands that analysis users often do a lot of repetitive work, and there are some simple jobs that need to be repeated in exactly the same way many times. This is where FEMAP users can take advantage of what's called program files in FEMAP. What you'll see is that we can record our actions. It records them into a simple editable text file, and it records it in basically command numbers and keystrokes that you would enter if you were performing these actions on the keyboard. Then you might have other user inputs. You can add FEMAP actions, you can output messages, and you can add a whole heap of logic and variables. One of the drawbacks of this particular style is that it's a simple tool, and version changes, if for example the menus that you use are changed between versions, then that particular program file will need to be updated. So this is a simple solution for simple repetition. So we'll have a look at playback. Basically, you can step through each individual line. You can play the entire file at once, and you can set breakpoints. So let's have a look at this. I'll just switch over to FEMAP now. Here we are. I've just got a very, very simple model here in FEMAP. I've got a cube, and I've got a property set up already. The first button of interest is how do you get to the program file? Well, in FEMAP, if everyone can see, right here is the program file option. If you can't see that, you can always come to Tools and then Toolbars. Tools, and I've lost it. I know it's in here somewhere. I just can't see it at the moment. Programming. program file. There it is. So that is the other way to get to this same interface. Now, this program file is not part of my FEMAP model, okay? Completely different. Even though it shows up in the same window or the same interface, it's not part of the model. When I press the record button, which is this one here, it will record every single action I do. So I'm just going to do that. Hit record, and maybe I say open. And is there anything on the desktop I want to open? It's probably not. But as you can see, I can go through, I can choose whatever files I want to do, and it will record it. I'll just cancel that. And you can see it's recorded open file, which is command 1002, and escape. Then I might want to set the mesh size. Now I've already got a model open, so I'll come and say mesh control, size on solid. And you can see there, it's recorded mesh size on solid. Now, if this is too small, you can very simply, when you're not recording, change the size of that. I'll show you that in just a minute. So I want to choose the solid. See, it told me that I've chosen solid number 1. Hit OK to that. Then it starts the mesh sizing dialog. I'll say element size of 200. Change a couple of options and hit OK. And you can see there, it's recorded the sizing and the options that I've chosen, and it's done the sizing. Now I might want to mesh the solid. So I'll say mesh, geometry, solid, and I'll say tet mesh only, and I'll turn off mid-side nodes, for example. Say OK, and that's created my mesh. All of that is recorded right there. I simply tap the record button again, and here I have a list of actions that I can perform as needed. Now I can edit these actions. I might want to remove the false start that I had, which was opening the model. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and undo everything. I'll just hit undo again. I'm all the way back to the start in terms of my model, but my program file still knows what I did. And I can utilize that simply by hitting either play or step through. I'm going to step through so you can see each line. Any line that starts with a $sign is a comment. First action. See, it puts one in, then it hits enter, then it goes into the mesh sizing, puts the parameters in and hits enter. Then it starts up the meshing command, puts in the properties and hits enter. So very, very quickly and easily, you can see how I can generate each of these. And if I need more information, I can actually separate these lines out and these commands out into individual segments. So you can see, for example, at 10501 is obviously where the mesh size is. So I'll put a comment, mesh size. Put the comment with the $sign. And then I unchecked one of the options. Oops, $sign. I think this was, I can't remember. If I went through, I should record, exactly what it is, so then I can annotate this into the model. Now this is all good. It's a very, very simple program that's easily repeated. I'll just undo these changes in the model again with undo. If I just hit play, you can see start to finish, it does those operations very, very quickly and easily. Now, there's help available simply by pressing F1 if you're in the program file window. And these are your various programming file options. Now, it's a whole heap of information. What I particularly want to show you is you can add things like ask. And using this kind of functionality, I can get information that goes back into the program. For example, ask variable name with a question. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to, first of all, change the size. I'll just hold Control Shift and scroll the mouse wheel to make that a bit easier to read for you. And I'll say hash ask. I need a variable name. I'll call this MS. What mesh size will you use? Now, I probably need to define a variable as well. So I'll just quickly go back to my help. And you can see def allows me to define a variable name and an expression if I need. Okay. I've got all sorts of options in here. I don't actually think I need to define the variable ms before I use it. But then what I want to do is I want to use the variable ms in my code. Now, when I'm using a variable, I'll see if I can quickly find it for you. Sorry if this is making you dizzy. I'm pretty sure it's an exclamation mark. Try that. We'll see how we go. So this time, what mesh size will you use? So 150 this time. Let's say OK. Nope. I probably should have put that in a different place. So I probably should have put that mesh size ask instead of there, put it before. Start the mesh size command. Sorry, that has to go at the very top because that's before the mesh size command. Okay, so let's try that again. What mesh size will you use? 150, that's fine. No, I've messed something up. Tried to get too complicated and I didn't practice this one beforehand. But you can see very quickly and easily how you can record simple actions and you can then play them back. That was what I was really trying to show you here. But you can also, if you read through the program file input and output commands, you can also add input and output into your quick program files. Now this is just for basic programming. I can also add breakpoints in here. So for example, if I want to know what a particular line means, then I might just click on this hand symbol, and that will put a breakpoint in there. Then I hit play, and it will stop at the breakpoint, and then have to hit play again to continue. Didn't change that back to the mesh size that I wanted. So that's a very, very quick look at using program files. Now I can also save my program file. I can save that wherever I want. This is my basic macro. Just hit save, and then I can open up other program files that might already exist in that directory, or even in a custom directory that you have all of your basic program files stored. So that is a really quick look at basic program files, which realistically are simple programs for simple automation. Very, very quick and easy. Are there any questions? If anyone's got any questions, please type them in the chat message. Someone's saying no audio. Oh, no, it looks like that was just a local issue. Yep, everyone's saying audio's okay. So if there's any questions, please type them in the chat window. If I can, I'll get to them as we go through. Otherwise, I'll get to them at the end. So that's just a quick look at quick and easy, simple programming for simple tasks. Next, I wanted to show you custom tools. Now, actually, Francesco has, there's a couple of variables. Okay, can you watch variables in the program file? Short answer is no, you cannot watch variables in the program file. However, you can watch variables with the full application programming interface, which we'll be covering in a couple of minutes. The program file is a very quick and easy programming solution. It's not a fully featured program tool that we're working with. Another question, is the macro related to the geometry you selected or you created? The short answer is no. I did choose, when I was choosing my solid, I chose solid 1. Now that solid number that I was meshing is recorded in the macro. So if you need variability with different solid numbers or surface numbers, then you would have to add some interaction. But typically, you can even hit the select all command, which is another way of capturing all of the various geometry that you've got. So it's not related to that specific geometry, but it is related to the number of the solid in there. Is there a way to control the geometry item? Yes, there is, but again, that's in the fully functional, the API, which we'll get to. Can it be reused on other geometry? It most certainly can. All right. So we'll have a look at custom tools. Now, what are the custom tools? These are pre-written programs delivered with FEMAP. The reason they're done this way is because FEMAP engineers understand that you may use FEMAP a slightly different way to the next person. And so a lot of the functionalities is delivered using custom tools. Well, maybe not a lot, but some of the functionality, which can be customized, is delivered using custom tools. And these are pre-written API tools that you have the ability to change and modify as needed. Part of analysis is obviously that you need to have specific tools for your specific jobs. Now, the other advantage with custom tools is because they're pre-written API programs, it is a brilliant way for you, if you have no programming experience, you can have a look at these pre-written programs and learn the techniques and the code that is used to automate FEMAP. So you can very quickly and easily begin to learn and automate your company's work. So there's over 150 API tools installed with FEMAP, or about 150. You can use it as a learning resource. It's almost entirely version independent. That means an API program is not dependent on the FEMAP menus at all. So you can open the program files, step through them, hence learn them, and hence learn how to customize them. In FEMAP, you have a custom tools menu. Any custom tools are updated with the version upgrade. So if you change or modify any of the custom tools, I would recommend that you change or save those changes to a place called the user tools directory. Now you get to specify this directory. I'll show you that in just a minute. And this allows storage of user tools which are not changed when the versions upgrade. So you get to basically control your own custom tools. So you can see here the typical custom tools toolbar, and next to it is the user tools toolbar. I'll just jump across to FEMAP again. You can see here custom tools, and next to it user tools. Now, custom tools has a particular directory structure around it. You can see under data table, there's a whole heap of actions. Under element update, there's some more actions. I'm just going to start up a window, and I'm going to browse in my computer to that directory. Program files, Siemens, and here we go, FEMAP. Notice API. This directory structure should look fairly familiar because it's identical to the custom tools directory structure. It's not just identical, it's actually where the custom tools gets its directory structure. For example, in data table, add corner thickness, add nodes and displacements, add corner thickness, add nodes and displacements. These commands are all basic files, BAS files, in this directory structure. You can edit, you can open, you can copy any of these files. Now, when it comes to actually viewing the files, let's have a look. Well, first thing we need to do is we need to know where to get it. API programming or tools programming, API programming. This is a default file. I want to open a specific file. And then I'll browse to that directory again. Program files, Siemens, FEMAP, API. Now, let's have a look at, what shall we do? node update. Move nodes normal to curve. I'll just open this program. And this is your typical custom tool file. Now, this move nodes normal to curve. Sorry, move nodes normal to curve. You can see here, well, the first thing you probably should notice is rem allows you to make any comment you want in a file. The line starts with rem, it's a remark, it's not considered in the program, which is very, very useful for automating or for commenting so you understand what's going on in the code. Then we've got dimensions and we're setting those dimensions. That's basically the first part of the code. And then it goes down to various commands. Now, how do we know what each of these commands does? Well, there's two ways we can learn. We can find out by stepping through. And I'm just going to step through. Now, someone asked before if we can watch the variables. Well, you certainly can. We go to the Watch tab, and then I'll just type app. At the moment, the application, which is a FEMAP model, is nothing. So I'll step through. Now, app has a value. And all of these different variables we can monitor as we go through. I'll just keep on going at the moment. Most of this is set up, but then it comes to FE set, which is how you select various items, select ID, and it's a curve. Select line, what's the ID? And you can see how it's only really letting me select lines. So I'm going to select this particular line, which has an ID of 4, and I'll say OK to that. Notice line ID, LNID. As I hover my mouse over it, it tells me that that is 4. But I can also type in, oops, helps if I spell it correctly. Line ID is 4. So I can monitor all of this. If I need to make an immediate change, if I decide actually I didn't want line ID to equal 4, then I could actually change the line ID right here with the immediate window. I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to. You can also have a look through basically what's called a stack, which is commands that have actioned. So I'll keep on going. Again, FE select, select node, select nodes to move, all right? Select the nodes to move. I might I'll select just those nodes. So highlight, oops, that one wasn't really one that I wanted down there. So I'll just go remove that one. Say OK to that. So I've now got a series of nodes selected to move. And that is in the FE set. If we have a look at that, there's a set ID. And there's 4 nodes that I selected to move. So then the offset distance. How far do I want to offset? It's asking me. Offset distance, I'll say 10 millimeters. Okay, now it's resetting my select set. Then it goes and all of the nodes I selected, it goes through, grabs them, and updates them and moves them. And it goes through and does the next one. And you can see it proceeds through each of those using what's called while when. Now there's for loop, there's do until, there's a whole heap of different commands that you can use there. Then lastly, it regenerates the view. Now, I'm guessing that it didn't actually change much. I know. You can see there's additional nodes that have actually moved along the lines. So there's just a few of them. One, I think that's one. That's not a mid-side node. So it's moved various nodes along the lines. And lastly, it ends that command. So you can see that this is a way of stepping through, learning what each of the commands does, but there's also various help. For example, if I want to know how to program a select ID, if I just go in to one of these commands and hit space, actually type a comma, then you can see that it gives you the help for that particular command. The entity type is ft_curve, which is a data type. Then I get into the title, i.e. what's the question or what's it asking you to do. And lastly, the ID of the selection set that it's going to store all of these in, and it's ln ID, which if you have a look here, line ID is it's just a long integer and it's just simply an ID. Sorry, it's the line ID, not the select set ID. Sorry, confusing there. So it gives you a whole heap of help on that. If you want more help, I'll go into that in the next section, which is the full API programming. If I wish to play the entire macro all at once, then I just hit play. That's my line. Select the nodes to move. I'll just select those two. Offset distance, 5 millimeters. And it's moved those nodes again, particularly this one. It's offset that by 5 mil along the line, and this one as well. So you can see how you can play it. You can see how you can step into it. And you can see how you can see exactly what command is. Now, if I wish to edit this, obviously I need to know what I'm doing, but I can simply edit, add different code, and save it as a different command. And I'll just do that very, very quickly. I won't save it as the same command. I'll do save as. I'm going to go back up to my desktop. I'm going to add a new folder called, or my Vmap tools. I'll save it in there. Tom's move nodes normal to curve. Okay, now I'm going to close this. I'm going to say user tools, tools directory. Choose my desktop and where is it? My FEMAP tools. This is now my user tools directory, and you can see Tom's move nodes normal to curve. If I add a folder, it will appear as one of these sort of groups of commands. So very, very similarly to how the custom tools is set up, I can set up user tools which can be customized. They might just be particular tools that you like most out of the custom tools. So when a new version of FEMAP is installed, like I said, this does not affect your custom tools unless there's a very, very major change, in which case any changes to the API are documented in the What's New files. So that just gives you a really quick overview of customizable programs that come with FEMAP. So are there any other questions on that before we move on? Someone's asked why use rem and not $. Rem and not, these two are different programming languages. Okay, the very basic application or record playback program file is a slightly different language to the full API programming. Full API programming uses WinBasic, which requires the rem, I think it's or a, I think you can do a single quote as well to remark things out there, but they're basically two slightly different languages, which is why you do that. What is the ampersand? Okay. The ampersand is, I believe, the format of, sorry, not the format, the data type. So the ampersand, when you get used to the data types, is telling you what data type that is. Can we customize the labels in the pop-up message box? Absolutely. We'll get to that again, but in the message box that came up, there's a thing called the title, and the title is that name requesting the input parameters. So yes, you can do that as well. All right, so we'll keep on going. So what is the full application programming interface built into Solid Edge? Solid Edge, I did it again. FEMAP. It uses Vmap Basic, which is a form of Visual Basic. It's an object-oriented programming interface, and it's basically what's used in Excel is a cut-down version of Visual Basic. It's called Visual Basic for Applications, and it allows you to interface with things like Excel, Office, all of those typical tools. It uses the programming language, i.e. WinBasic, to control FEMAP as well. So Vmap Basic is a non-compilable form of Visual Basic. What that means is you can't produce an executable file at the end of it and just run that. You have to run it from within FEMAP if you want to use the Vmap tool. If you choose to use Visual Basic, the language is very, very similar. There are a couple of slight changes, but it's very, very similar, and you can do your coding in something like Visual Studio or Visual Basic completely external to FEMAP as well. So that's what one of the beauties of the API is. It's not closed only to be able to be used within FEMAP. You can run executable programs outside. From the API, you can also execute recorded program files. That's the very simple files we were looking at earlier. There's a full list of help files on the API as well, which I'll show you in just a second. So what this allows you to do is you can deal with the most complex programming or automation tasks and capture internal analysis processes. So if you've got one, hotshot and an analysis expert, you can actually get him to write these tools and deliver these tools that will perform with very simple input more complex analyses that he might not be able to use, or might not have the time to do. So you can effectively duplicate the skill that you've got in the company. I should make the point that, again, with the application programming interface, there are no links to the documents that you are working on. Okay, there are no links to the model files. The interaction with the model files can be through user interface, i.e. asking you to select different things at different times, but there is no link between the programming file or the BAS file and the modfem file that you're working on. So it's set up basically to give you back some of the time that's otherwise taken up in repetitive, boring tasks. And with the API, it really is a completely customizable automation tool. So let's take a bit more of a dive into the programming. Back here. This time, I'm going to, I didn't mean to start the thermal tool. I meant to start the application programming tool again. This time, what we want to do is we want to actually create a file from scratch. Now, the help that I was talking about, you can come to help, programming, and there's also help on the Vmap basic language if you want that. I'm going to start up the help for the programming help. Now, this is a very, very short introduction. However, there is a large amount of help. It all falls under the API, Application Programming Interface. This introduction is what you're looking at there, and it breaks it down into objects, methods and properties, data types, and then you get into the tools and things like that. Now, there's help on how to work with the API, and then you have a look at FEMAP itself. There is modeling methods, connection methods, geometry methods, meshing, how to modify various things, whether that be geometry, whether it be nodes, elements, mesh. All of these tools are available in your FEMAP API. So you really can go a long way in your automation. You've got various tools as well. Now, these are geometry preparation tools, selector tools, select sets, all sorts of various tools. You can copy, you can move, you can merge models, all of these various tools. It is a little overwhelming, and I'm not going to focus on every single tool in here because, well, we want to get home sometime today. So what we'll be looking at is how to, first of all, connect with FEMAP. So you can see in the application programming window, it starts creating a variable called app, which is a FEMAP model. And then it sets the app to FEMAP. Now, this is a little bit different from when you're in Visual Basic as a standalone tool, but this is a very, very simple way of connecting to the model that is currently open and active in FEMAP. So that's simply the FEMAP model that is active in FEMAP. So then we might want to, for example, communicate with the messages window down here, or the messages pane. So how do we do that? Well, let's have a look. I'll go into the help, and I'll go to search. And then I'll type in messages. Also type in API because this looks through all of the help. So by typing in API, it gives the help an indication that you're only looking for messages when it comes with respect to the application programming interface. Now you can see here there's something on the API, but it doesn't really mention the messages. A lot of the FEMAP commands in the API start with FE. So this FE app message is a really good indicator that this is a message box command. And if I double click on it, you can see that it gives FE app message color message. And the description is that it writes a message to the messages window. That's pretty much what we want to do. So I'm going to come in here. I have to connect with FEMAP first. So I say app, then I type in FE. Oops, hang on. FE, sorry, I forgot. App message. Then it gives you a bit of help. Hit tab to finish it. And then I start by opening the bracket. It's saying what color do I want to use. Now, there are predefined colors here. A regular command, an error, a highlight, normal, or a warning. I just want to put in a regular, normal message. So then I hit comma to move on to the next option, and I'll say my custom program is starting. Close the bracket, and that finishes that line. So there I have a valid command. If you want to see what it does, I can simply hit play. And you see down here, my custom program is starting. I'll make that a little bit bigger so you can see it. So that gives you an idea that this API program is already talking to FEMAP and letting you know what's happening. Now, we might want to do something a little bit more complex than that. So I actually want to delete all of the mesh and the mesh sizing on this model. So I'll just quickly do that, because what I want to actually do in this example is I want to mesh the model. And I'll say, I won't worry about deleting the mesh sizing. We can do that as we go. So first thing you've got to do when you perform mesh sizing is you need to mesh the model. So let's go and have a look at the help files. For the API, I'll go to Contents. We'll go to FEMAP Application Object, Meshing Methods. And you can expand this out. I've got Mesh Control. I've got Meshing Geometry, Other Meshing. Well, what I want to do with the sizing is part of Mesh Control. You'd be familiar with that because you come up to this standard menu and you say Menu, Mesh Control, Size On. Well, I want to do Size On Solid. See, Mesh Control, Size Solid. And you can see there's the command, FE Mesh Size Solid. So let's put that in there. App, because I need to connect to that again, dot FE Mesh Size Solid. Open the bracket, and it says surf set. Okay, I don't really know what that is yet, but it is a long. In other words, it's an ID. So I'll just type surf set, comma, replace all. Now, you're probably fairly familiar with the standard mesh sizing dialog. I'll just quickly refresh you on it So you can see size on solid, select, hit OK. And you can see that I've got replace mesh size on all curves. So that's probably what this size on is going to be. Then I've got minimum elements, maximum angle tolerance. I've got a huge number of commands. Some of them are checked, some of them are not. Okay, we're using some and we're not using others. All of these commands or options in the mesh size solid are available in here. So that is what all of these commands are. So when it says replace all as Boolean, I think back to my mesh sizing dialog and I say, yes, true. Mesh size. What size do I want my mesh to be? Well, I'll say 300 for now. Then minimum edge. That's how many minimum elements on an edge. I'll say 1. Maximum angle, default's 25, so I'll just use that. Maximum on small. I'm just trying to remember what that is. Oh, this is maximum elements on a small edge. So I'll say 6. Small size, I'll just use 0, and that will get it to automatically detect as it normally does. Vertex aspect ratio, I want to use 3. And mapped refinement, yes, I'll say true. Growth factor, I'll say 1.2. Refinement ratio, I'll set that as 0 because I don't want to use it. Refine surfaces, true. Match adjacent, true. X mesh, false. Adjust color, false. And remove slaving. This is the removed slaving on previous surfaces. I'll say true. So there's a whole heap of commands there that allow you to set your mesh sizing. So what do we want to do in here? Well, first thing I want to do, this surf set, okay, we need to find out what that is. So I come in, solid set. This one is mesh size solid. So it is an ID that contains of a set that contains a list of solid IDs that will have the mesh sizes set. What this means is that is all of the solids, or a set of all of the solids that we want to use. So we're going to have to go and find out what a set is. So I'll come up and say set API. Come back, come down. Looks like there's an awful lot of sets there, so I'll just go to the contents instead. And I suspect there's a set utility. I suspect it's in the tools. Here we go, set objects. So this tells us what a set is. Now, we basically need to add a user interface to allow the customer to reference those or all of those objects. So first thing we need to do is we need to actually create a variable to hold the set. So I say dim s solid set, s set as set. Okay. Then I'm going to use the set s set equals, and I can almost always start with FE or FEMAP. Oops, no, that's not right. Oh, sorry, app. FE set. Okay? If you basically add FE to the start of almost everything, and you'll find the command that you're needing. So that's the that adds or creates a set. We now want to be able to create the a set with all of the solids in it. So let's have a look at what we can do with this. Just type S set, select set, and I've got automatically add, which will, by my guess, add one by one, or I've got add all. I want to use that. And I want it to be solid. I can just start typing solid and it filters to FT solid, which is the data type that I want to work with. So I want to add everything, all solids, to my select set. And that gives me S set, add all, FT solid. So now I've got a set of all of the solids. Instead of surf set, I'll say S set dot ID, because it was a long value, not a set value or variable. So the ID is what it was looking for of this particular set. And that allows me to use that. Now, I also need the ability to get a mesh size on the object. So how do I do that? Well, where am I? I've lost where I'm up to. To get a size, this is a fairly standard command, and I want it to pop up a dialog box to ask me what size I want to do or I want to use. So I'll come in here and I can have a look. Can't see anything in there. Can't see anything in here for dialog boxes. Oh, yes, I can. Standard dialog boxes. So I want to use a standard dialog box. I don't want a coordinate, vector, plane, or even an entity selection. I want something else. And you can see there's a whole heap of different types. I could use a real number, or I could use a real length, which I think is probably more appropriate, considering I'm specifying a mesh size, which is a length. So FE get real length. Now I want this to be a mesh variable. So I'll create a mesh variable, M size, or as real. Double is another type of number variable. So now I've got the mesh size. Now I'll say app dot get real length. And you can see I don't have to get the spelling that correct before I start. Make it a little bit bigger again for you. Get real length. Now, what's the title of my dialog box? Enter mesh sizing. And value I'm going to put into my new variable, which is mesh size. So now I've brought up a dialog box to ask for the mesh size. So instead of 300 now, I want that to be a variable mesh size. And that creates it. Now, let's have a look and see how we're going so far. So I'll step through. It will, as you start to step through, it will have a look at the code, and if there's any obvious errors, it will tell you straight away. So it connects to FEMAP, that's that first part. Then it creates a select set. Then it adds everything to the select set. Then it asks for a real length. Mesh sizing, if I want, I can measure a particular distance using the measure tool. That's one of the advantages of using the dialog box. Or I can just type in a value and say OK. So that's now got a variable for mesh size is now given the variable of 100. And select set count, there's one object in the select set. So now it says my programming is starting, and if I got it right, and it looks like I did, it sets the mesh size of that solid to 100. Very, very quick and easy. If I actually run the program, then it just quickly asks for the value and sets the size very, very quickly. So I'll keep on going. Next, we actually want to mesh the solid. So I'll have a look again in the help, and we'll mesh the solid. I go to meshing methods again. We're past mesh control now, we're meshing geometry. If I have a look at, I can see tet mesh solid because I want to use a tet mesh. You'll see I've got a command there. However, in the notes, it says this method has been superseded by FEMesh tet solid 2 and FEMesh tet solid 3. Now, you might ask, why have they left the old command there? Well, it's very, very simple, because they want your programs, your old programs, to still work, even though they've updated and provided additional functionality in the command. So now, if you want to use the old method, you can, or you can use the latest method, which is here. So I'm going to simply copy and paste this. An app in front of it. Obviously, I'm going to have to remove the line breaks. Okay. There we go. It's quite a long command. And I need to work out what each of these values is going to be. The first variable is entity type. So I want this to be meshing solid. The entity set that I'm going to be meshing is select set that I created. So sset.id again. Then what property will I be using to mesh? I'm going to have to work that out in a little bit, so I'll come back to that. What meshing approach do I need to do? Well, there's various options. There's pyramid, surface only, or tet mesh. I want a tet mesh. Then, am I creating mid-side nodes? I won't for this, so I'll set that to false. Tet growth ratio, I'll say 1.2. Check surface elements. Well, I don't really need to do that, so I'll say false. Delete surface elements. Yes, I don't want any surface elements left over after the meshing. Mid-side geometry. This command would project mid-side nodes onto the geometry. I'll say false because I'm not using mid-side nodes. Mid-side angle. 0 for that. Multiple through the thickness. Then I'm not really going to use this command, so I'll just say 0. Sliver removal, yes. Oh, oops, helps if I spell true right. Tetrahedral optimization, yes, I'll turn that on. Oh, hang on. Optimization. That's a value. Sorry. Long value. So I'll say, I think that's 3 as a default. Yeah, it's got different variables values in the dialog box, so you can just reference the dialog box if you're not sure about that. Pyramid surface set, we're not going for pyramid elements, and whether I want to match adjacent parabolic elements, in this case I'll say false again. So what we've got there, we know everything except the property ID. So we're going to have to go back and find the property ID. So let's have a look for help on property. Search, property, API, and there's various options. Not much is obvious. There's property objects. That's not API. It's probably going to be something like FE property. So I'd have to look a bit more carefully. The output object. It's not a plain object. I think this is one of those cases and my eyes were not working under pressure. There we go. So I found property object methods. Now I'll just hit locate to find this in the tree. Now you can see there that with properties, there's no particular objects or methods for selecting. They're all to do with working internally on the property. So what we'll probably have to do is we'll have to use the generic tools that that get a property. So one of them, we'll go back to good old app command. Oh, sorry, I should create a dimension for the property ID. PID as, I'll create that long, which is an integer. Then I'll say PID equals app dot FE prop, which gives a link to the properties in the program. And then just tell it that I want to select the active property. Now, in my model, what that means is I actually need to have a property active. That's the light blue highlight. Okay, so now this will select the active property and use that. So now I'll change this to actually variable name, and it's now going to get or mesh that solid with the active property using these various options that I've specified. So I'm just going to run all the way down to the cursor, and I'll do a mesh size of 100 again so you can see it change. And now I'm up to this command. I'll check my PID is value 1. That's correct. That is the active property. Step past that. It meshes the model automatically, and then it finishes. So very, very quickly, I can now repeat this meshing process with click of a couple of buttons. Set the mesh sizing, hit enter. Now, at the moment, it's already got a mesh on this model, so I probably should delete my mesh before I go and redo it, which is why it's created an additional entity. So I'll say delete model mesh all. I won't delete the property. And now I can simply play this, resize the model and the mesh. If I want to add in, a command to delete previous mesh, I could certainly do that. I won't do that at this point in time though, because I think you can see how you can work through and create your own customization to do whatever you choose to do. Then I can simply save this tool, and this is all this Tom's meshing tool. I'll put it in a new folder. And you'll now see that I have meshing, Tom's meshing tool, to very, very quickly and easily delete that. Now, if I want to use these two in conjunction, I might say record, delete, model, mesh, select all, OK, no. So now I've got oh, sorry, I forgot to actually record it. Hit record, delete, model. Undo my previous command, which give me some mesh to delete. Delete, model, mesh, select all, OK, no. Stop recording. And I will save this. Oops, sorry, that's the wrong one. Save this. So I've created a tool called delete mesh retain properties, and then I've created a meshing tool. Just close down both of these. We don't need them open anymore. Meshing, meshing tool. What size do I want to mesh? 300. Very, very quickly. No, I want to redo that. Delete mesh, retain properties. Do a different size. So, and of course, with all of this stuff, you can add if-then loops. You can add logic loops to spear off and do different things depending on the previous settings. You've got a huge number of options with this API programming to very, very rapidly speed up your operations. So that is how you can automate the most complex tasks. It's been a relatively quick demonstration relative to programming. So that is how you can do that. So what you've seen today is how to quickly and easily automate some things for exact repetition. You've seen some of the programming customizable pre-written programs that come with FEMAP to allow you to learn and customize FEMAP. And you've seen the tools that allow you to automate the most complex tasks. So I'll just go back to any questions if there's any more now. It looks like there's a couple. How do you create a set of IDs? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. If you email us later, we can go into that in more detail. If there are default values for the commands that would be, are there default commands for the values? There are. Most of the time, it's best that you fill in all of the values. However, if, for example, it's a mesh sizing and you want it to automatically calculate the mesh sizing as it normally does, you can often put 0 in and it will fill in a value if it is required. However, you've got to be a little careful with that because with some of the other commands, 0 tells it to ignore it. So it's just a matter of working with or through the help documentation, and it will tell you the defaults, and it will also guide you on what to put in if you want to get the defaults. Can you see coding that would create an existing model, or could you use it, or that you could use as the basis for writing a custom program, a custom code? There is geometry creation examples in the automation. No, that's not geometry processing. That's mostly editing. I'll have a look if there's specifically geometry creation examples. Basically geometry creation is very, very similar to these geometry creation commands. It's just adding an application interface onto that. So you may have to do geometry creation from scratch. A lot of people, the reason I didn't go into that in this was because most people seem to import geometry from current CAD. Just as a note, the API window open to display the basic language help. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. You've mentioned yours is grayed out. I'm happy to go into that offline. Yep. So can we set the parameters by import Excel spreadsheets or MX Access database with values in preset format instead of entering them manually in the API pane? Yes, you can interface with Excel using Visual Basic. It works quite happily with that. There are actually examples for working with Excel in the custom tools, so you can certainly do that. Oh, okay. The comment on the API, getting help on the API is you need the to get the basic language help. You actually need the API programming window open. As you can see, mine's grayed out there. As soon as I open up the programming tool, it becomes available. That's all. That's all the comment was. Thank you for that. Yeah. Any other questions before we wrap it up? Can't see any more coming in. If you've got any more questions, please, by all means, let us know. So what does all this mean for us? Well, you've got a simple interface for simple automation. There's a fast path to learn full customizable automation, and we allow you to capture your work processes and take the boring, repetitive tasks out of basically out of your day, so you can get on with the things that you really like to do. We've got a case study here from Cardinal Engineering. Now, these are an engineering services firm providing services to the government in the UK, and they have a particular focus on the marine sector. Don't worry about the fact that there's a shuttle in the background. This image was taken at a FEMAP symposium, and while they were interviewing John Herring, he said that they achieved, or they were working on a particular project where they had to analyze and document over 1,000 unique shipboard pipe hanger foundations in a very short time frame. During the discussion, he said that using the API function in FEMAP, we were able to improve modeling and analysis speed by 1,000%, which in the end led to less time to do a model from inception to analysis to writing the reports. Now, because this did include geometry creation all the way through to report and analysis, this is a case that was particularly geared towards automation, so it helped a lot. But a speed increasing your speed by a factor of 10 is a huge increase, and this just gives you an example of the type of automation that you can perform and the savings that it can give you in FEMAP. So thank you for watching. Thanks for paying attention. I do, on the next slide, I've got some resources from one of our US partners that may assist you if you're looking to get into automation a little bit more. And we do have a handout. Sylvia, if you can post that in the chat window. We have a handout so that you don't have to scribble these links down, so that you can simply download that. That's got those links in there. And you can, this is a quite large FEMAP partner in the US that works closely with Siemens. And they've got some really good automation guides and how to get started in that process. So thank you all for coming. I hope that you've learnt a few extra tools that will help save you a little bit of extra time, and look forward to seeing you or hearing from you in the future. Thank you very much.